Next question is from Coney Chua. What are each of your most controversial health and wellness opinions?
I like this question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first one that pops into my mind,
Controversial.
yeah, that I would say is controversial, that I would still promote, or that I'm personally a fan of, is fasted cardio in the morning. And we've seen all the research, and we know that if
That's like a pendulum with the opinions on that, right?
it is,
Yeah.
and we know that it does not make a difference whether you're fed or not fed. But but remember, when we look at those studies, these studies are not measuring behaviors. It's the mechanistic part.
Yeah.
And if you were like, if calories are controlled and the person does fasted versus fed cardio, then it's all the same. That's the argument. But we talk about this a lot on the show, about that you can't take the behavioral part out of an equation, in my opinion.
No.
It's, in fact, it is as important, if not more important.
It's the most important thing.
And so, and being somebody who went through this process of never being a fasted cardio person for half of my training career and never even caring about it or thinking about it, because I just didn't care about getting shredded or bodybuilding. And then all of a sudden I get into the bodybuilding world, and anybody who's been in the bodybuilding world knows that that is a staple thing to do, is to do fasted cardio. So for the first time in my life, that was introduced. Now, my biggest takeaway, because I understood the science going into it, I had already listened to Layne Norton shit all over it for years before and stuff like that, before I even decided to introduce it. What I found was, if I wanted to do an hour of fasted cardio, that meant that I had to start my day an hour earlier every single day that I was going to do that. That got me out of bed and moving earlier, and also made me extend out the time that I would have to eat. That extended period of time and the additional hour of getting up every day ended up adding into these higher calorie day burns consistently than if I wouldn't have not done it. Now, you could make the case, well, you could have just woke up an hour earlier every day and then done your cardio fed later on. Well, yeah, the truth is I wouldn't do it. I knew I wouldn't do it. And so me having this routine of, I'm not going to eat, I'm going to get up as early as I can, and the very first thing I'm going to do is go do cardio, it promoted these longer days more consistently for me, and I had tremendous success with it.
Yeah.
Even though I understand the science doesn't support it being better than fed cardio.
I not only agree with you, I'm going to add to that I think that the behavior aspects for the average person who doesn't compete and doesn't think of it the way you do, they still benefit because it frames their day with fitness. And studies show this. When people exercise regularly, a lot of people tend to also pay attention to their food. They also tend to pay attention to the rest of the day. So if you start your day with exercise, it's like you're starting your day off on the right foot. I started out my workout. Okay, now some people can use it as an excuse to overeat. But when they look at long-term studies, people who do this consistently, not the people who do it for like a couple months and then stop. People who do this consistently, what they find is when people start their day off with a practice like exercise, that they tend to eat better throughout the day. They tend to make better choices. And when they don't, they tend to make worse choices because it frames the day.
I'll add to that. So another thing that I made a connection, and of course, not everybody is going to be like me, but I found this common with a lot of people, was that I would wake up. I had figured out my day to get ready to go to work and do my normal routine down to the minute on what time my alarm. And I was going to sleep as long as I could to get the shower, brush the teeth, get dressed, do the thing, drive to work, whatever like that. When I had to do this whole hour before, and now I'm up way before I needed to, it gave me time to organize my thoughts on what I was going to eat. Where if I didn't do that, I would eat whatever was closest or drive in somewhere and grab something really quick on the go because it was the most time efficient thing for me. It wasn't the best thing for me. Where when I was walking on a treadmill fasted, I was thinking about, what am I going to, when I get home, what can I make myself? Or I would have it prepared ahead of time because I've got this extra hour that I'm up earlier.
Totally.
So I noticed that a lot of these behaviors around my morning routine and eating correctly, and like you said, it made a big difference. So even though I'm very familiar with the science that supports, fasted versus or non-fasted, and it's moot as far as like it being more beneficial, that is not including the behavioral aspect, and I see lots of benefits.
Agreed.
I'll add to that. No, actually, I'm not going to add to that. But I think for mine, I would. I guess it's not really that controversial. I guess it's controversial, right? Basically, you're only as strong as what you can lift without any aided support.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's just, I mean, and to me, that's, I guess there's some controversy because you can wear belts and you can wear wrist straps and you can wear like shirts and things to be able to lift weight and like boost your ego. But at the end of the day, if you're just picking something up, like you're only as strong as what you've built.
I don't think that's controversial. I think that's uncommon. I think that's a fair way to, because I think that's not a common way of thinking anymore.
It's a truth.
No, it is a truth. That's why it's not
truth.
controversial. It's not controversial because it's a fact.
If you judge your strength,
people don't want
by-
to hear that. I think is my point.
Yeah, I think if you judge your strength by how much you can lift in the real world, like normal, then it's 100% true, right? If you need to have knee wraps and wrist straps and a belt to lift your 400 pounds, and then you're in the real world, well, you can't lift 400 pounds. It's just you can't do it. So I totally get it. Unless somebody judges their strength by what they can lift with those aids. So then
Competition.
fine. Yeah, then it makes sense or whatever. But no, that's 100%
I don't have
true.
a problem with it, but that's just sort of my thing.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, you're doing this for improving the quality of your life, giving you more strength, stability, performance, mobility for everyday life. So there's carryover, right? If you use wrist straps and then you go in the real world, you're still going to have some carryover, but it's not 100% carryover or not as much carryover as when you don't use those things. So I think that I agree with that. All right. So mine is that this push to get people plant-based is going to cause more health problems and be worse for the environment than allowing people to eat an omnivorous diet. That's mine right there.
I agree, and that is controversial.
And here's why.
That's a good one.
There's a couple reasons why. One is we look at the effects on the climate in a vacuum. So I'll use another example, right? We just had a pandemic and COVID was spreading. And we said, if we locked everybody down, we're going to get this many less infections and save this many lives, which is true. But what we didn't do is look at the big picture and say, oh, wait, we're going to lose more lives because of more depression, more anxiety, more suicides, more drug overdoses. Economic productivity is going to go down. Every time it goes down 2% or 3%, X amount more people die because there's people that are on that line of poverty where if it goes down a little bit, if you're wealthy or middle class, you're not that big of a deal. Cancel a couple streaming subscriptions. But if you're like barely making ends meet, that could be life or death. I can't go to the doctor, that kind of stuff. So in this particular case, that's what we end up doing with this particular argument, because animals are incredible at capturing, at eating. They'll eat plants, poop it out, create fertilizer, create more grasslands, that kind of stuff. Not only that, but you see in studies often when the average person, and there was one that just came out, in fact, Max Lugavere posted this, when you tell the average person, hey, or you convince them or you scare them and say, hey, just go plant-based, it's much better. What they end up doing is they end up just eating more heavily processed foods. Mm-hmm. Their diet gets worse because the very few whole foods that they ate were animal-based. Like if you look at the average American's diet, 60, 70% of it's processed. The 30% that's not processed is milk, eggs, and meat.
Yeah.
So you scare them away from that. It's not like they're going to go and all of a sudden have this wonderfully planned, executed, plant-based whole food diet. They're just going to go eat.
No, they just eliminate
substitutes.
The meats. Yeah,
right.
They just eliminate it.
So you see more nutrient deficiencies. You'll see more illness, less productivity. And here's my point with that when it comes to the climate. The most successful thing that we have in the world to solve problems is human ingenuity. You're going to reduce mass productivity. You're going to increase illness across the board. We don't know what the ramifications of that are with productivity and innovation. We don't know that. Not to mention, it's just going to make people sicker and fatter by pushing them in this direction. So this push and people saying it's better for our people's health is better. Bullshit. It's not. You're going to need more planning. You're going to need more. And you expect the average person to plan an omnivore diet really well. Good luck. Now tell them to eliminate the only whole natural foods they eat.
Yeah. The most nutritious food.
The most nutrient-dense foods. You're going to make their health much worse. You'll make obesity worse. You'll increase nutrient deficiencies. And the studies support this. They do.
I like that.
And don't compare people who are plant-based, who are health conscious, to the average person. Compare the average person to the average person. One of them eating omnivore, one of them going, oh, I'm going to go plant-based. Watch what happens there. That's where you see the problems.